Tamonte Harris and Lakeisha Hill were shot and killed here in Lexington. Police arrested Corey Jackson. They say he killed Harris, but not Hill. Today, the judge heard testimony from Lexington Police Detective Jeremy Atkins. He says they're not charging Jackson with the murder of Lakeisha Hill because they believe Tamonte Harris shot and killed her. We know that a witness who claims to have seen the shooting provided police with a suspect description on scene. Very soon after, police say they then located Jackson 1 block from where the shooting happened. 2 witnesses identified Jackson as the shooter during police lineups. We learned today that right now, that is the only evidence police have against Jackson. They tested him and his clothes for gunshot residue. However, they do not yet have the results of those tests as the lab is backlogged 5 to 6 months. Detective Atkins also testified that Jackson did not have a gun on him when he was taken into custody. Jackson was facing charges of murder and possession of a handgun as a felon. The judge dropped the murder charge to manslaughter and reduced the bond from $500,000 to $100,000. In Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.